The unexpected defense. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with an anxious energy as thousands of delegates from across the known universe gathered in an emergency session. The massive oval room, with its tiered seating arranged in concentric circles, focused all attention on the holographic display hovering at its center. Normally used for diplomatic discussions and trade negotiations, today the display showed real-time footage of a military operation, one that had every species in attendance holding their breath. High Counselor HFY, a towering figure with iridescent scales and 6 articulated limbs, raised a hand for silence. As the eldest representative of the Quarian ascendancy, one of the founding species of the Council, his authority was unquestioned. "The feed is live," he announced, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. "What we are witnessing may change the balance of power in our quadrant for generations to come." The hologram flickered, showing a small blue-green planet hanging in the void of space. Earth, a backwater world on the fringes of the Orion Arm, inhabited by a species that had barely managed to reach their own moon. By Council standards, humans were technologically primitive, politically fractured, and evolutionarily unremarkable. They had been classified as a Category 3 species, worthy of observation but not interaction. That classification was precisely why the Council had chosen Earth as the sacrifice. The Voidborn were coming. For centuries, this nomadic species had carved a path of destruction through the galaxy, consuming resources and leaving dead worlds in their wake. They were relentless, methodical, and seemingly unstoppable. The Council's most advanced military forces had only managed to redirect them, never defeat them. When predictive algorithms indicated the Voidborn fleet would enter the Sol system, the Council made a cold calculation. Earth would fall. Its destruction would buy time for more valuable worlds to prepare their defenses. No evacuation warning was sent. No technological assistance was offered. Earth would never know what hit it. "The Voidborn Vanguard has entered Earth's solar system," reported Telever, the Council's military liaison. Her holographic avatar appeared beside the main display, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "They will reach orbital position around the target planet in approximately 6 hours." The chamber fell silent as the delegates watched the familiar, dreadful scenario begin to unfold. The Voidborn ships, massive constructs of dark metal resembling skeletal fingers, approached in perfect formation. Each vessel stretched nearly 10 kilometers from tip to base, dwarfing anything humans had ever constructed. "Are we certain the humans have no knowledge of the impending attack?" asked a representative from the Meldari confluence, their bioluminescent appendages pulsing with concern. "Completely certain," HFY replied. "Their detection systems are rudimentary. The Voidborn are employing standard approach protocols. No emissions, minimal drive signatures. The humans will not detect them until they achieve low orbit." The Council watched as Earth rotated peacefully below, completely unaware of the doom approaching from above. Some delegates turned away, unable to witness another genocide. Others leaned forward, morbidly fascinated by the inevitable. "Wait," Telever suddenly interrupted, her voice carrying an unusual note of confusion. "Something is happening." The holographic display zoomed in on a section of Earth's upper atmosphere. Small objects, hundreds of them, were rising from the surface. Too small to be ships, too numerous to be routine launches. "Are those missiles?" a delegate asked incredulously. "Impossible," another countered. "Human missile systems cannot detect targets at that range. Their tracking systems are radar-based." And the debate ended abruptly as the first wave of Earth's missiles reached the leading edge of the Voidborn fleet. Bright flashes of light erupted across the void, and the Council chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. "The missiles are detonating precisely at the location of the Voidborn ships," Telever reported, her professionalism cracking. "But their targeting systems shouldn't be capable of." "The Voidborn ships are taking damage," interrupted another military analyst. "Substantial damage." The Council watched in disbelief as the supposedly invisible Voidborn fleet was pummeled by wave after wave of missiles. The ship's stealth systems were failing, revealing their true positions as they attempted evasive maneuvers. "This is not possible," Zixval muttered. "How are they tracking the fleet?" As if in answer, the holographic display split to show multiple data feeds from Earth: radio communications, satellite movements, power grid fluctuations, all indicated a planet that was not only aware of the threat, but had been preparing for it. "They knew," whispered a delegate. "Somehow, they knew." The first Voidborn vessels began to fall from formation, their drive systems critically damaged. Others turned to engage, deploying their own weapons, energy beams that had cut through the most advanced shields of Council worlds. When they struck Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The beams diffused, scattered by some kind of field that shouldn't have existed. "Analysis indicates Earth has deployed some form of atmospheric defense grid," Televa reported, her voice now openly displaying shock. "The technology signature doesn't match anything in our databases." The Council watched as smaller Earth vessels, crewed by galactic standards but faster and more maneuverable than expected, rose to meet the remaining Voidborn ships. Instead of being instantly vaporized, they darted between the massive alien vessels, deploying more weapons that attached to the Voidborn hulls before detonating. "They're using shaped nuclear charges," a weapons specialist noted with horrified admiration. "Primitive but brutally effective against the Voidborn hull composition." Within hours, the unthinkable had happened. The Voidborn Vanguard, a force that had laid waste to worlds far more advanced than Earth, was in retreat. Half their vessels were destroyed or disabled, the rest limping away from the Sol system with significant damage. Earth had not fallen. Earth had won. The Council chamber descended into chaos. Delegates shouted questions, demands for explanation, accusations of deception. Some insisted this had to be an elaborate hoax. Humans could not possibly have developed the capability to defeat the Voidborn so quickly and without detection. Zixval raised all 6 of his limbs, demanding silence. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke with grave authority. "We have grossly miscalculated," he said. "Our assessment of humanity was fundamentally flawed." The holographic display shifted again, showing archived footage from Earth's history. Wars. Countless wars spanning centuries. Technological leaps made not gradually but in desperate bursts during conflicts. Weapon systems evolving not from scientific curiosity, but from the need to destroy more efficiently. "Humans are not like us," Telever observed quietly. "They don't advance through cooperation and shared knowledge. They advance through competition and conflict. Their entire history is a preparation for war." "But how do they know about the Voidborn?" insisted a delegate from the Phyrexian assembly. "We've been monitoring their communications. There's been no contact, no warning." Another feed appeared on the display, internal communications from Earth's military organizations dating back decades, references to extraterrestrial threats, defense preparations, contingency plans for exactly the scenario that had just unfolded. They didn't know specifically about the Voidborn, Zixval realized with growing dread. They'd been preparing for any alien threat. For generations, they'd been building defenses against an enemy they couldn't even confirm existed. The implications washed over the Council like a cold wave. Humans hadn't just gotten lucky. They were paranoid, warlike, and had dedicated significant resources to defending against threats from beyond their world, without ever having encountered such threats. "We need to reevaluate our classification of Earth immediately," a senior analyst suggested. "They clearly possess technological capabilities beyond our previous assessment." "It's not just technology," countered Zixval. "It's their mindset. Other species develop weapons as needed. Humans develop weapons in anticipation of needs they may never have. They prepare for wars they don't know will come." The chamber fell silent as a new transmission appeared on the display. It was coming from Earth, directed not at the retreating Voidborn, but at the distant observation satellites the Council had positioned at the edge of the Sol system. The message was simple, broadcast on frequencies that should have been beyond human knowledge. We see you watching. We've always seen you. This was just the beginning. Earth stands ready. The Galactic Council, for the first time in its 1,000-year history, trembled. Humanity's message. 3 standard cycles had passed since the Voidborn retreat from Earth. In that time, the Galactic Council had maintained constant surveillance of the Sol system, observing with growing unease as humans salvaged the remains of fallen Voidborn vessels. What would normally take decades for a developing species to reverse engineer, humans were accomplishing in weeks. The Council chamber had become a permanent crisis center. Today's emergency session marked the 100th consecutive gathering of the full assembly, unprecedented in Council history. Their rate of technological advancement has increased exponentially, reported Science Director Nailvex, a diminutive being whose large cranium housed one of the most brilliant minds in the galaxy. They're integrating Voidborn technology with their own systems in ways we never considered. High Counselor Zix Val nodded grimly. And their military readiness. Completely mobilized, Telever answered. They've unified their defense forces under a single command structure, something our analysts predicted would be impossible given their historical political divisions. They're constructing orbital defense platforms using modified Voidborn weapon systems. At current pace, Earth will have the most fortified defensive perimeter of any single planet in the quadrant within 1 standard year. The chamber hummed with nervous energy. For generations, the Council had maintained galactic order through careful management of technological proliferation. Advanced species were granted membership only after demonstrating centuries of peaceful development. Species prone to aggression were subtly contained, their advancement slowed through covert intervention. Humanity had shattered that paradigm overnight. We must make contact, suggested First Diplomat Krell of the Centauri Conclave. Establish diplomatic relations before they develop the capacity for interstellar travel. If we guide their integration into the galactic community, perhaps we can. The diplomat's proposal was interrupted as every display in the chamber suddenly flickered. The Council's secure communications network, unhackable by any known method, had been compromised. A human face appeared on the central hologram. Female, middle-aged by their standards, with dark skin and eyes that reflected a disturbing intensity. She wore a simple uniform bearing insignia unknown to the Council's cultural database. Galactic Council, she began, speaking perfect galactic common. I am Admiral Helena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force. We request an immediate audience. Stunned silence filled the chamber. The human shouldn't have been able to access Council communications, shouldn't have known galactic common, shouldn't have even known the Council existed. Zixval recovered first. How have you accessed this network? This is a secure Council frequency. The human, Admiral Rice, smiled without warmth. We've been intercepting and decoding your transmissions for decades. Your encryption is elegant but predictable. Zixval exchanged alarmed glances with his fellow counselors. If humans had been monitoring Council communications, they had access to sensitive information about countless worlds. Very well, Admiral Reyes, Zixval said carefully. You have our attention. What is the purpose of this audience? To establish terms, she replied simply. Humanity is aware of our position in the galaxy now. We know about the Council, the major species, your technological capabilities, and your policy of controlling the development of lesser species like ours. She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. We also know that you deliberately withheld warning of the Voidborn attack, that you classified Earth as expendable. Murmurs of alarm spread through the chamber. This was worse than they feared. The humans didn't just know about the Council, they knew specifically about the decision to sacrifice Earth. Admiral, Zixval began cautiously. There seems to be a misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, Rise interrupted. We have the Council session records. Your exact words were, Earth will fall. Its destruction will buy time for more valuable worlds to prepare their defenses. The council chamber fell deathly quiet. Those had indeed been Zixval's exact words from the private session before the Voidborn attack. What you need to understand, continued Reyes, is that humanity does not take kindly to being considered expendable. Behind her, the hologram expanded to show a cavernous facility where hundreds of humans worked on what appeared to be drive systems salvaged from the Voidborn vessels. Within 6 months, Earth will have its first interstellar-capable vessels, she stated. Within 1 year, we will have a fleet. We are not asking for permission to join your council. We are not seeking your approval or guidance. Another image appeared, Earth from orbit, now surrounded by defense platforms that pulsed with energy signatures that made several council military experts visibly recoil. We've been detecting probes from various species at the edge of our system, Rice continued. Some we recognize as council observers. Others appear to be from independent interests, perhaps hoping to claim Voidborn technology for themselves. Her expression hardened. Let me be absolutely clear. Earth is off limits. Any unauthorized vessel entering our system will be considered hostile and destroyed. Any attempt to interfere with our development will be met with immediate and disproportionate response. The council delegates looked at each other in disbelief. No emerging species had ever spoken to the council this way, with demands instead of supplication. You seem to be declaring independence before we've even formally acknowledged your existence, noted Krell, the diplomat. That's unprecedented. So was leaving us to die, Rice countered. But we survived. And now we thrive. She leaned forward, her image dominating the chamber. However, we are not unreasonable. Humanity has no interest in conquest or aggression, unless provoked. We seek knowledge, trade, and mutual defense. A new set of data packets flooded the Council's systems, detailed information about the Voidborn that even the Council's best analysts hadn't uncovered. Ship schematics, biological data, weaknesses in their defenses that the Council had never identified. Consider this a gesture of good faith, Ray said. Our analysis of the Voidborn technology we've salvaged. It may help other worlds defend themselves. Council military experts were already poring over the data, their expressions shifting from skepticism to astonishment. This is remarkable, admitted Telever. Their understanding of Voidborn systems exceeds our own, despite having access to the technology for mere weeks. War has been humanity's teacher for millennia, Rise explained. We excel at understanding our enemies. A moment of uncomfortable silence followed as the Council processed the implications. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? Zixval finally asked. A new relationship, she replied. Not as subjects, not as Category 3 species awaiting your approval to join the galactic community. As equals, we will continue our technological development without interference. We will defend our system as we see fit. But we are open to establishing diplomatic relations, sharing knowledge, and participating in mutual defense initiatives, particularly against threats like the Voidborn. She paused, then added with deliberate emphasis, and we expect a seat on the Council. The chamber erupted in objections. A seat on the Council was granted only after centuries of membership, after a species had proven its stability and commitment to galactic peace. To demand immediate Council representation was unthinkable. Zixval raised his limbs for silence. When order was restored, he addressed Reyes directly. What you ask violates thousands of years of Council protocol, he stated. Species must progress through established stages of integration before. With respect, High Counselor, Reyes interrupted. That protocol was designed for species that need your guidance. We've been guiding ourselves quite effectively. The question isn't whether we're ready for the galaxy. It's whether the galaxy is ready for us. She gestured, and new images appeared. Humans working alongside salvaged Voidborn technology, modifying it, improving it. The Voidborn will return, she continued. They always do, according to your own records. When they come back, they'll bring a larger fleet. And when that happens, humanity will be ready, not just to defend Earth, but to take the fight to them. This declaration sent another ripple of shock through the council chamber. No species had ever successfully mounted an offensive against the Voidborn. The very idea was considered suicidal. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, Ray said. You can continue to treat humanity as a primitive species to be managed and controlled, a strategy that I assure you will fail. Or you can recognize that sometimes evolution takes unexpected turns. Sometimes the species you dismiss as primitive today might be the ally you desperately need tomorrow. She straightened, her bearing unmistakably that of a military commander delivering terms. We await your response. You have 1 Earth week to decide. After that, we will proceed according to our own plans, with or without council approval. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For several minutes, no one spoke. Then Zix-Val turned to address the assembly, his ancient eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and perhaps hope. It seems, he said slowly, that the galaxy as we know it has changed forever. A young delegate from a newly admitted species raised a tentative appendage. Are we really considering giving them a council seat? They're barely interstellar. Telaver, the military liaison, answered before Zix-Val could. They defeated the Voidborn with primitive technology. Imagine what they'll accomplish with advanced systems. Do we want them as allies or adversaries? They threatened us, protested another counselor. No, corrected Zix-Val. They established boundaries. There's a difference. He surveyed the chamber, meeting the gaze of each senior counselor in turn. For too long, we've measured species by how closely they resemble ourselves, how peaceful their development, how gradual their progress, how willing they are to accept our guidance. Perhaps it's time we recognized that different evolutionary paths can produce different kinds of intelligence, different approaches to survival. He gestured to the data the humans had shared, the Voidborn analysis that surpassed the Council's own understanding. Humanity survived where we predicted they would perish. They've mastered technology in weeks that should have taken decades to understand. And now they offer alliance rather than retribution, despite knowing we abandoned them. The chamber was silent as his words sank in. I move, Zix-Val declared formally, that we accept Admiral Raya's offer, that we establish diplomatic relations with Earth, and begin the process of integrating humanity into the galactic community, as equals, not as subjects. One by one, the senior counselors signaled their agreement. Some reluctantly, some eagerly, but all recognizing the inevitability of the new reality. As the session concluded, Zix-Val remained alone in the chamber, staring at the last image the humans had transmitted. Earth, transformed in mere weeks from a vulnerable world to an armed fortress. May our children forgive us, he whispered, if we have unleashed something we cannot control. But beneath his fear ran a current of something else, something the Council had not felt in generations as the Voidborn advanced relentlessly through the galaxy. Hope.